Town Council meeting for July 15th, 2024 to order at 7 o'clock p.m. All council members are present. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item up is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items that are not on the agenda. This comment period is for limited to the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and if there's overflow, we will get to it at the end, and you are allotted 3 minutes to speak. We do have a sign-up sheet, but we'll also give you the chance if you just want to come up. But first up on my sign-up sheet is former council member Harold McLeod, former president of Rotary, Harold McLeod, which begs the question, are you doing anything right now? Just everything's a former.
Yes, somehow I keep getting sucked into things.
Perfect.
I can't help it.
Well, we appreciate you. And if you will introduce yourself and your address for the record, you know the drill.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I think I'm up for it. By the way, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. For the record, Harold McLeod, 25130 East Village Drive, Aurora, Colorado. Tonight I'm here for a very unusual situation. I'm bringing you money, just to let you know. With me is Susan Garwood. Susan, would you stand? She is the current president of the Rotary Club of Parker. And we are here tonight to thank council for their participation in helping to light the gazebo. The staff worked beautifully with me on getting that done, picking the right type of lighting. And you were nice enough to go ahead and pay in advance for the cost of it, and I am here for reimbursement. So I have more than $4,300 that I will approach.
You can always approach for that. You can always approach for that.
That's something you don't get very often.
I know.
Okay. So, also I'd like to inform the council that because we like the lighting so much, we're going to have an ice cream social there on the last Thursday of this month. So we want to properly break it in. Thought I'd let council know what we're doing, so if you see a whole bunch of funny people over there, it's us, okay? And on a personal note, I would like to thank council and the mayor. I know how much time and effort you guys put in nobody knows about. You don't get paid for it at any rate that's worth talking about. And I know what you go through, so you have my personal thanks for stepping forward and doing this. If there's any questions, I will sit down.
Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it. And just as a history lesson for everyone in the room, Mac served on the Parker Town Council when then Mayor Greg Lopez, now Congressman Greg Lopez, was on the dais as well with you. So Mac's been around for a couple of years. Yep, a couple of years. So thanks, Mac. We appreciate it. Susan, thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda and go to reports, items, and comments from mayor and council. I'll start to my far left with a returning council member, Hefta. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I had a wonderful road trip across America to North Dakota with my family for our annual visit. And so now I'm back in our lovely hometown. So I did go to the Douglas County Homeless Initiative meeting on July 11th. And we heard from the Family Tree Partners, a nonprofit organization helping the homeless. And we also heard from the Douglas County Reintegration Team. The Douglas County Reintegration Team is a team that once folks are released from the Douglas County Jail, assists those folks in finding housing, work, employment, all types of hooking up with relatives, friends, and trying to get them in a stable housing situation upon their release from jail. They actually go and coordinate before the folks are released from jail and try to help them when they come out. So very worthwhile briefing with the Douglas County Homeless Initiative. Then I also attended with Councilmember Wilkes and Chris Hudson, the Deputy Director of Engineering today on the Dransfeld Road extension. We had a wonderful visit touring that construction site. and also understanding how construction slowly moves to get the job done. It's like those first couple years of having a child. It's very slow, but then the end result is wonderful. We're going to have a wonderful road extension through Mostenbacher and Dransfeld Road this coming 2025, I believe, and maybe 26, but hopefully 25. And then I also went to the Senior Law Summit with our Douglas County and Arapahoe County partners, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, the Arapahoe County Sheriffs, and Lone Tree as well. And for those of you that have not participated in this, you don't have to be over 60 to go. It is a wonderful day of learning by attorneys and professionals, health professionals in the area, elder law, all types of different seminars you can go to. There was one on fraud. It's outstanding. So if you get the chance to go, sign up for that. And then, of course, I had a great time with my boys in the concert in Discovery Park this past week. Thank you.
Councilmember Wells.
On top of that, thank you, Councilmember Hefta. I also attended the Downtown Business Alliance general meeting last week, and then they had their networking happy hour later on that afternoon. That's all.
Councilmember Dyak.
Thank you. We had a E470 board meeting last Thursday, just a bunch of updates. We had the CSP given their annual statistics. They also recognize a E470 staff member for stopping a wrong-way driver before bad things happened. Again, the wrong-way drivers has always been a problem. I remember former Councilmember Martin always coming and letting us know that there was a problem. I think it was 7 or 8 many years ago. I think we're up to 12 or 13 on an annual basis. And thankfully a lot of those end up safely, but there is a couple in our history that have not. So good to have those updates. We also had a public affairs update as well as to some initiatives that they're doing to get the word out about E470, and that is all.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, I attended the Parker Senior Center board meeting and the DBA meeting. That's it.
Councilmember Barrington.
Thank you, Mayor. This afternoon, I had a call with the EENR committee members where we began discussing the committee's recommendations just for some policy amendments and resolutions. And other than that, I went to the Hootie and the Blowfish concert and was probably the youngest person there.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. Besides what was already mentioned, this weekend I was in the Springs for the conference of the Colorado Municipal League Executive Board, which I was newly elected to last month. And we spent a couple days down there discussing the plan for the next year for CML, discussing what went right, what went wrong at our annual conference, how we can make it better, and then obviously discussing what role we play in the State House or the state capitol's legislative issues. So got our policy together, got everything together, and we're ready for a new year. We're going to look at some improvements to our policy committee that Councilwoman Hefta sits on behalf of the town of Parker, and we're going to look at some exciting things. And then we got to tour for our dinner sponsored by Colorado Springs. We got to tour the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum, which absolutely is amazing. If you haven't been down there yet, you've got to. You've got to check it out. I had the opportunity. They have a lot of sport simulators. So I had the opportunity to race Jesse Owens. It was close, but he did beat me. But it was absolutely fabulous. I got to luge, I got to ski. It was really cool. And the two biggest things, I think the two most impactful things are the torch display and the medal display. Absolutely amazing, the collection they have down there. So just a fabulous time down in the Springs, and my personal thank you, and thank you from Parker to City of Colorado Springs for hosting us. It was a great event.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is presentation of the financial statements by Plant Moran.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rhonda Willey, Controller for the town. First, is the
Tom's saying no.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Per Section 9.15 of the Town Charter, the town is required to complete an annual audit. The town engaged Plant Moran to audit the town's 2023 financial statements and also to complete a separate review of the Cultural Fund for the SCFD grant. The Cultural Fund financials have been reported to SCFD, and the town financial statements have been filed to the State Auditor, Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, and the Government Finance Officer Association. I emailed the links to the financial statements along with the governance letter to you. I also have copies of the governance letter if you need it. The auditors will be going through it tonight. The final step of the audit is when the auditor gives an overview of the audit and the statements. Rich Beretta from Plant Moran is here tonight to discuss the audit.
Thank you, Rhonda. Honorable Mayor, members of council, thank you for your time. My name is Rich Beretta. I am an audit senior manager with Plant Moran. I am based out of the Denver Tech Center. Happy to continue to serve as your audit firm and present the final deliverables for the 2023 audit. So, here are all 151 pages of your 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. I won't be going through those page by page. I will be keeping this high level for you, just focusing on the audit opinion, which is a clean opinion, which is consistent with previous years. And, you know, based on the clean opinion and also the fact that this report is a significant lift, I think it's an appropriate time to thank Rhonda and her team. You have an outstanding team, not just for producing the information here, but for answering all of our questions as part of the audit. And as Rhonda mentioned, you also received this letter, which is standard as prescribed by our audit standards and follows that format. This is consistent with what we've issued in the past and is a clean letter as well. I will just touch on just two highlights that are unique to this year. So on page 2, we mention a new standard that was adopted for 2023. You'll recall in the past, you had GASB 87 for leases. So similarly, GASB 96 prescribed standards for subscription-based information technology arrangements. Basically, if you have a right of use for an IT asset and that corresponding liability, that is now reflected on these financial statements. So note 1 to your financial statements discusses that policy, and note 4 further discusses what those are. And then lastly, I'll call your attention to the second part of the letter on page 4, where we talk about federal funds. So the town currently, as of December 31st, 2023, has approximately $4.5 million of ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act funds, which need to be fully obligated before year-end December 2024 and then fully expended by 2026. And as the federal expenditures start to increase and exceed the threshold requiring single audit, that would be new for the town, and we are working with Rhonda. We'll give her a healthy break from the audit, but at some point this fall we'll be talking about that and monitor that going forward. And then obviously if you have any further questions, happy to answer now or offline afterwards. And again, thank you for your time.
Councilmember Dyak, any questions for you?
No, I appreciate your efforts. Always good to hear a clean report, and I'm sure all of us are going to go home right after this and dive into those 150 plus pages. I'm sure. I see head nods here. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes,
No, thank you for the presentation.
Councilmember Hefta,
Thank you for your notes and updates.
Councilmember Hendricks,
No question, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Rivero.
No, I appreciate your hard work. Obviously, appreciate Finance's hard work. This is our second year with Plant Moran.
Third year.
Third year. Wow, excellent. Well done. And again, great job. I know from what I heard that you're amazing to work with, so keep it up and look forward to looking through the clean audit.
Great, thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you, sir. All right, and Rhonda, before you leave, can I give you these?
Yes.
It just so happens you're here, and you like checks, so, all right.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There'll be no separate discussion of consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for introduction only and will not be removed for discussion. So, council, for your consideration, you have items 5A through 5F.
I move to approve consent agenda items 5A through F, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Rivera, second by Barrington. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is our town manager report for summer 2024. Acting town manager and assistant town manager, Emily Hogan, anything to add to that report?
No, I do not. Just a lot of really great information that's happened the last few months by the town.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to our public hearings tonight, and we'll open this up at 7:15. The public hearings on Civic Center filing number 1, exemption plat lot 1, parking garage site plan. Julia Duncan is here with us. Welcome, Julia.
Good evening, Julia Duncan, Community Development. Thank you, Mayor and Council members, for having us this evening. Before you tonight is the Civic Center F1 Exemption Plat, Lot 1, Parking Garage Site Plan. The town is proposing a site plan to build a new parking garage on the 3.745-acre Parker Arts Cultural and Events Center lot, also known as PACE. The portion proposed for redevelopment is currently used as a surface parking lot serving the PACE Center. The property was part of the original Town of Parker Incorporation. Town Council approved the Civic Center Filing Number 1 Subdivision Exemption Plat and Hines Center Minor Development Plat First Amendment Subdivision Exemption Plat on July 20th, 2009. These exemption plats ultimately created 2 lots and 1 open space tract to provide in part for the financing and construction of the Civic Center facility, and a second lot for parking and future private development. This proposed parking garage is located on the same lot as the existing PACE Center. This is an aerial of the surface parking lot. On September 6, 2022, the Town and Parker Authority for Reinvestment, PAR, entered into purchase and sale agreements with Confluence Companies for the sale of 6 parcels, as well as a development agreement outlining conditions and requirements for development. The development agreement between the town, PAR, and Confluence defines the projects, performance deadlines for approvals, and construction on each parcel. In this slide, you can see the landscaping in connection to Sulphur Gulch Trail, which provides pedestrian access. The proposed garage will provide 296 parking stalls, 9 of which are accessible and 2 of which are van accessible. The project is 4 stories and 48 feet in height. Of the 296 spaces, 10 will be installed with EV chargers, and an additional 9 will be EV charger ready. 10 bicycle spaces are also being provided. The garage will replace the existing 255 surface parking spaces on PACE lots 2A, 2B, and Lot 1, which is a 41 total increase. Pedestrians have direct access from the sidewalk on Pikes Peak Avenue, with vehicular access on the east side of the building. The parking area of the garage is naturally ventilated. Site plan applications are typically reviewed and processed administratively. However, pursuant to the Parker Municipal Code, site plan applications for public facilities owned by the town are required to be scheduled before public hearings. This large gray area, before I go into my next item, just so you know, that's going to be a mural. So I don't want that to shock anyone. That's going to be designed by an artist with the cultural department. The project is subject to the Greater Downtown Historic Center guidelines, the Development Design Standards and Development Agreement. The layout of the garage, landscaping, and architecture were all analyzed based on these guidelines. The development agreement has the following requirements for the garage, all of which have been reviewed and satisfied. A minimum of 255 parking spaces. The design of the structure shall complement the adjacent PACE Center in exterior appearance, including building materials, color scheme, pedestrian access, and treatment of openings in lieu of windows. The incorporation of murals on the planned parking garage and other large, unadorned, and blank walls to create visual interest while activating these areas. The architectural design of the garage is consistent with the themes, materials, and architecture of the PACE Center. Entry canopies, varied roof lines, incorporation of metal screening, and different materials meet the standards and guidelines for the development within the Historic Center. Additionally, the Cultural Department, following site plan approval, will commission an artist for a large mural that will encompass the western facade of the building. This mural will be visible from Pine Drive and Pikes Peak Avenue and will help pull the garage and Pace Center together, highlighting the artistic nature of the venue. Entrances are clearly identified and easily accessible with pedestrian entrances directly onto the sidewalk. Openings have been vertically and horizontally aligned, and vehicular headlights are screened, which prevents light pollution from escaping the building. The building is also designed to break the roofline at certain intervals to create visual interest. Vehicular access to the property will be provided along Pikes Peak Avenue at the intersection with Pace Center Drive. Southbound Pace Center Drive currently ends at the intersection of Pikes Peak Avenue, a T intersection. With the development of the garage, Pace Center Drive will be extended south past Pikes Peak Avenue to a drive aisle providing access to the garage. Pikes Peak Avenue and Pace Center Drive are constructed and are sufficient to provide adequate access to the site. The garage does not generate additional traffic, but rather provides parking for the surrounding uses. The town has determined that the access point proposed for the garage is sufficient to provide vehicular access to the site. As stated within the Main Street Master Plan, Main Street is the heart and soul of the Parker community, reflecting its character, culture, and heritage. Main Street is identified as the economic, cultural, and social center of the Parker community. The subject property is located within the Old Town area of the Master Plan. The vision for Old Town is to continue shaping the vital downtown, enriching the community, residents, and visitors alike. The proposed parking garage will replace the existing Pace Center service parking lot, provide additional parking than what is currently provided today, and open Pace lots 2A and 2B to be available for the high-quality mixed-use development that will further activate the east end of Main Street. The proposal to construct a parking garage on the site is a permitted use on the property. Site plan approval is required prior to construction. Review criteria include satisfaction of setbacks, heights, parking, landscaping, layout, architecture, all public work engineering requirements, and consistency with the approved development agreement. After careful review and analysis, staff has determined that the proposed application has satisfied all requirements for a site plan within the town of Parker. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed site plan amendment. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that all criteria have been met. The proposal is consistent with the town master plan. All referral agency comments have been addressed, and all notice requirements have been satisfied. This concludes my report. My colleague, I neglected to mention, Nathan Klass in engineering is also here this evening, and we have Brad Gassman from Crane Architecture here to do a presentation as well.
Do you, Julia, do you want to do that presentation first? And then since, I mean, we're the applicant as well, so we can just ask questions at the end of yours and his?
Yes, that
Okay,
works.
all right, let's do that.
Thank you. Julia, is there something I need to do here? Gotcha, okay. Get started in a second.
We're low tech around here.
I'm low tech as well.
Okay, good job.
So it's a good
We'll
fit.
get along good, yep, yep. There we go.
There we go. Okay, I think that is looking like we got it up there. I will get started here. My name is Brad Gassman. I'm with Crane Architecture in Denver. We've been working with several projects down here in Parker and working with Nathan and Julia on this project. So I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to present to you today. Julia did a really nice job, I think, of summarizing the project at a very high level, got into some really great details. So I'll kind of highlight 4 of the areas I think that are really important to the architecture of the project, and then really open it up for questions. But as Julia went through, everybody's aware of the location, so it's adjacent to the Pace Center parking garage, or the parking garage will be on the existing parking lot that's currently there. This is just a quick little site plan that we pulled together. Julia had one of these as well, but it shows kind of a couple of the key things that really are important to the project. the vehicle entry drive and its adjacency to the neighboring streets, the connection from Pike Peak Avenue back to the Sulphur Gulch Trail, and the kind of the Sulphur Gulch side of the trail where you get some of the tree and the landscape buildup that's along that edge. Architecturally, like I said, the big four characteristics that we really pursued here was sort of the relationship to the Pace Center itself. So we have a perforated screen wall that's very similar to the Pace Center. It helps to designate very clearly, I think, where the entry is to the building. There is the coloring of the brick. That is something that we've taken directly from the Pace Center as well. So we're using that same brick palette so that they relate to one another and have a strong relationship that this is the parking lot for the Pace Center. And I'm going to move forward here. The couple of the other key things that I think are really important to the design is the way that the openings for the actual garage itself, where the cars park, have been laid out. So we extended the wall, the crash wall, up to 42 inches to help provide an area that blocks the light from the cars from spilling out of the site. And then we created these little vertical elements there that kind of give a scale that's very similar to window patterning in the district. And then, as Julia mentioned, we have a couple areas here that we've designated for art mural placement. So on the west side of the building, we actually have a very large area that'll open up, have a mural on it that opens up to the Pace Center itself. And then on the opposite side, we've got a couple other key areas where signage and murals can be placed. And at a very high level, very quick kind of running through it, I think that is kind of the big four, items that really kind of help establish the relationship between the parking garage and the Pace Center itself. And then I'm available for any questions if anybody has any.
So, Councilmember Hendricks, we'll start with you for either staff or for Crane.
No questions right now.
All right, Councilmember Barrington?
Yeah, could you go back to slide number 1? So, just so I can get my bearings, is this the view that you would have if you were driving west on Main Street, like turning off?
So if you were driving, let me go here to the elevations. Yeah, so this is from Pikes Peak, yep. So
Yeah, but if you're turning.
if you were driving west, the lower elevation is the elevation you would see. So that's adjacent to the existing detention pond right now. That's there. It's on the east side of the building.
So if you're driving west from Town Hall, you would see this. This is the wall. If you come out of the Pace Center loading dock, this is the wall you see.
Okay.
And then the wall with the ironwork is on the north that you would see from.
Yeah.
This is the Pace.
Pace.
Yep. Okay. All right, I'll figure this out.
Well, I pulled it back up again. So the main entry there is facing north. So now if you were on Main Street,
So if you're turning.
looking across
this way.
from the parking lot currently,
Yeah.
that's the elevation you would see.
Okay.
And then if you were heading west, you would see that other longer elevation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. Just a few questions. So when I come into the parking garage where that looks like a Honda is going in right now, if I turn left and I go subterranean even, I get down, do I get into a dead end down at the bottom? Is there an exit on the west side?
So at the bottom, there'll be a turnaround
There will be a
location.
turnaround.
And we've talked also about using signage to help prevent that from happening.
Okay, so I
right?
guess that's my biggest thing. When I was going over the plans today, I saw parking stalls in every possible corner, and I didn't see a place where inevitably, at load-in, before a show, you're going to get cars chasing cars. They're going to get down there. There are going to be no spots. What do we do?
Yeah, so we talked about that briefly as well. There's a little bit of adjustment of the current parking lot or the space layout.
Okay.
We won't lose a space, just adjust those, and then we can actually give a spot where you can turn into a spot, and then back out, because we've got some extra depth at the end there
Okay.
to allow that to happen.
Okay.
But the biggest thing then is also using signage to prevent a bunch of cars from stacking up as we
So I
go
guess
down
it's
there.
my next question, and it's more and more prevalent here. I was just up at CSU on Saturday, and their lot has that, so many spots available. And in Stockholm, where I go frequently, they have little lights above each stall. You can look down. If there's a green light, you know you can go down there. Is that something that is available for this building, or is that something that's been thought about for this building?
I can answer that. So we're restrained to a budget currently for this parking garage. We opted ultimately to go with more spots with this particular parking structure. At the very beginning of all of this, we opted for a little bit more spots, so that kind of leaves us less room to have signage at the front of the building to identify the number of spots. There will be something that will be along those lines, possibly for the first floor, to avoid a backup, to indicate those number of spots.
Okay.
And we also are really restrained with how tight we are to those power lines for core.
Yep.
We have some restrictions on what signage can protrude from the building on that side, and it's really a budget restriction too, is the main concern.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers
So
your
that,
question.
yeah, it does. The interior wall then, is there a breakup in that wall, or is that a solid sheet of concrete? So if I'm coming down, I'm heading south in your garage, our garage, excuse me, and I can look in there and see if there's cars or spaces or whatnot, or is that wall in the middle a solid panel?
No, the wall in the middle is actually an open panel, so it's got openings within it as well.
So you can see if there's a
You
big
can
dually
see,
down there
you'll
trying to
be
turn
able to
around.
see through that, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let's see. Oh, sorry, my screen went dark. Next, I don't know if you're involved, and this is just to ask on my part, the landscape architecture, is that a separate company?
It is a separate
Okay.
company,
Okay.
but go ahead and ask the
I
question.
guess my biggest thing is we, as the town of Parker, have been pushing more water-conscious landscape. And I noticed some hardwoods in the landscape design plan. And I just wonder, since we're not looking for canopy shade structure, and we're not looking for, park trees, we are simply looking for a visual breakup. I wonder if we can go to strictly Colorado spruce and Colorado trees that would be more beneficial to our land, or to our water needs. It's just a question. I didn't know if the landscape architect was going to be here, but a question I have. And that can be answered from staff's relationship with the landscape architect.
Sure. Brett Collins from our Parks Department worked extensively with Wink Landscape Architects, which is the firm that did the landscaping. This went through multiple rounds of revisions with offline comments as well.
Okay.
Working through that landscaping, part of it is that our Parks Department will be doing the maintenance. So there were initially some species presented that were then requested be removed.
Excellent.
There's a number of existing shrub beds over there that do meet our tree mitigation and conservation requirements. So there are a certain number of trees that have to be planted to replace the
trees we're
quantities that are
removing.
being
Yeah,
lost.
we have to follow the same rules that we think developers follow. Okay, perfect. So then I think my last, and obviously Brett would be on top of that, and I didn't know if this was first presentation, but if Brett's already on top of that, then I have full trust in them. Lastly, I'm going to bring up the EVs and, the cost of installing those EV spots. Is it a public-private partnership with a EV provider? Is there revenue generation for the town? What's the relationship like there?
Yeah, so we've been working extensively with Core. They launched an EV charging station at O'Brien Park. And we're kind of going to do something similar with this project, but we would be on the ownership side of these charging stations. We wouldn't be collecting any revenue. We're not in the business for EV charging stations and collecting any revenue. It would kind of be it pays for itself type structure, which is kind of what they have set up at O'Brien Park right now. And in addition to that, there's also grants with the state that they're offering for EV charging stations right now that will help supplement the funding for supply and install of the EV charging stations as well.
Okay, I think that's my biggest concern, is I do not want a public parking building to be a revenue generator for a company. So if we're the owners and we're looking to net zero on it, then
It will be correct.
I'm very, very happy with that. So tell me again, walk me through the EV spots. We have 4 on deck 1, 4 on deck 2, with 10 additional possible?
So they're all on the first floor?
They're all on first floor?
Yes, correct. So there'll be 10 fully operational on the first floor, 9 additional on the second floor. That'll be for future. The 10 on the first floor will be fully operational.
Okay. Okay. And then lastly, just for my edification, the laws regarding EV spots. We hear about, the coal rollers battling the Teslas and parking in spots. Is there a ordinance that governs who can park in an EV spot?
Jamie can answer that.
And I can follow up on that. Currently, there is a statutory authority under Title 42 that would allow enforcement of that. We can certainly discuss further, We can certainly discuss further whether we want to adopt an ordinance specifically, or if we do model traffic code amendments with the new model traffic codes, it is actually included in those.
I mean, obviously, I have concerns, and I can express this in my comments, but I have concerns creating more work for men and women in blue, and, a spot is a spot, it's a public building, but we'll get there. Thank you.
And just to clarify on the cost, are those free EV spots? I'm trying to.
No. So what do you mean free EV? Like cost-wise, people would park there and they
If
would
I
get
park
free
there, right.
electric? No, they would have to pay for the electric to charge their vehicles in those spots. Oh, all the parking in the garage is free though to park
No,
there.
but on the EV, and where does that revenue go to? Does it
That's
go
what
forward?
we would have to work out with the agreement with Core. It would kind of be it pays for itself type situation. It would just be an at cost with what Core would have set up.
Okay.
For electric
Was
costs.
that your understanding?
Yeah,
All right,
that was
Yeah.
thanks for clarity. That was my concern.
Yeah.
Councilmember Dyak.
Thank you. I think I know the answer, but if we want to put additional levels on this parking structure, could we? Is it built to expand?
There would be the height limits of the zone
I know.
from a
But
construction.
besides that, those could be changed. Not to say that I would ever entertain that, but I'm just trying to think ahead here. I've read things about parking structures and it being scalable. There's also they're also able to be reimagined into housing. I get that. We're not going to do that here.
Right.
But to me, the simple question is that if we need another structure many years in the future, and if a council is willing to do so, can you scale this up?
So I think the short answer is you can scale it up. It would be a structural question then, how much additional beefing up, I guess, of the structure do you need to provide that?
Now
right.
versus
Now versus later, right? So you'd want to get ahead of that now.
Sure.
Obviously, but it's a ramp that just keeps going up. So if that became something that at some point in time somebody wanted to look at, I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah.
But there are definite structural implications to that would expand it further than where it is now, for sure.
No, I recognize there's a 60-footer for 4-story type of restriction, but I just spend time thinking about stuff like this, the what if, because things changed, dynamics change, and I just didn't know it wouldn't 30 years in the future, whenever that is, if there's a need for an additional deck, they would then come back and say it can't be done. They would then have to do an entire structure, but again, I'm going down a wormhole, I think. Thank you for your answer.
Councilmember Wilkes.
Yeah, just a couple questions. So when I was looking at the plans, it was hard for me to tell, but are there oversized spots? I don't know if you know, but we really like our trucks and our SUVs here. And like my husband's truck doesn't fit into any parking spots in downtown Parker at all. So just curious about the size of the actual parking spaces.
So they're standard sizes by, in meeting the code, zoning code down here. So they're 9 by 18 spaces. So it's a standard parking size. It's not oversized.
So we need to buy a smaller car. Got it. And then just for reference, do we know how tall the Pace Center is right now? Because I know that this is only at 48 feet, and looking at the renderings, it looks like it's pretty close, not too much taller than what the Pace Center is at its highest right now.
Yeah, I don't have the exact height of that, but you are right. They are actually, when we've looked at it kind of holistically, the theater portion of it is pretty similar in height to where this is.
Okay, so it's not like this structure is going to overshadow our Pace Center or be much bigger, taller,
No.
line of sight bigger
No.
than that. Okay, and then just for clarification, I think the mayor touched on this as well. This isn't just parking for Pace Center. This is parking for all of downtown Parker and anybody that wants to park. It's free public parking. It just happens to coincide being next to the Pace Center, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
I have more practical questions. Not being a fan of parking garages ever in my life, and here's the two main reasons why. You come out of the parking garage, say Cherry Creek, let's use that as an example. You're tired, you've been shopping all day. You forget what floor you're on, where you need to go, what sign you are. So I guess two questions. And then there's a smell in the parking garage. So I guess I would, if I was going to design a parking garage, I would have bright colored signs so an individual can remember where they actually parked with the number and the sign. Like I'd have hot pink, 2 hot pink, 3. I mean, I would do that. I mean, maybe that's just my mind, but people remember color and numbers when they go together.
So on both of those,
Yeah.
I think we just met, it was last week with Art House, and Art House will be working on the signage for the garage. So Nathan was there in the meeting as well. And the color idea of the floor is one of the first things that they mentioned. They said most times people have a much easier ability to remember the color than the number or letter, whatever, of the space. So their proposal that they're working on, it's conceptual at this point, but is to actually have very bright colors, each floor distinguished by a color so that when you do come back and you can't remember if it's floor 2 or 3, you do remember the color of the elevator you got off. So that is one of the approaches that they're taking. And then the smell is interesting. This is an open air garage, so we've got openings on all sides. So we should be able to get there's a percentage of openings required to get carbon monoxide out of the building, and we're exceeding that so that we get good natural ventilation through the garage, so it's not a mechanically ventilated garage, which sometimes can not move air fast enough to actually get rid of those smells. So I think the color is something that's going to be there, and then the natural ventilation of this garage will actually help keep it smelling a little fresher than normal parking garages do.
Thank you and thank the team for those bright colors on there. I think our folks are going to appreciate that here in Parker.
Joe?
Okay.
Are you going to ask the same question I'm going to ask?
I don't know.
Who's responsible for cleaning it?
No.
Okay, that was mine. So I'll go first. Who's responsible for cleaning it? Is that cultural or is it parks or?
It'll be divided amongst different departments for different things, snow removal, parks. We're working through that currently with assigning tasks, but I believe parks is responsible for cleaning the trash cans, or, servicing those types of things that they are typically across town, yes.
Okay, you'll let them know Councilmember Hefta is looking for non-smelling.
I'll make sure they scrub the floors every day, every evening, so it doesn't smell.
If we put enough EV spots, it won't smell.
Candles, they're gonna burn candles.
Or just hang little trees
incense.
all in it, we'll be good. Councilman Rivera.
Just lastly, if you go to the bird's eye showing deck 1, and I understand why, because it makes a lot of sense, but you have obviously the entrance, looking down from the top, looking down, showing the dead end that I was concerned about. So,
Is this where you're?
sure, deck 1.
It'd be the bottom
It's
right.
lower.
Yeah, yeah. So I understand bringing everybody in at the intersection of the 2 roads, so you drive straight in to get into the parking garage, and thus your egress is just as easy coming out. Has it been talked about having another exit only down at my dead end?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I think the problem is the loading dock for the Pace and that traffic on that loading dock. We're trying to avoid that loading dock for Pace events and that sort of thing when big flows and that sort of thing go through the garage. we're just trying to keep traffic off of that hammerhead for the pace.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, council, any other follow-ups? All right, with that, we'll open it up for public comment at 7:44. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on this project, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and comments at 7:44 and bring it back to council in that same order. Councilmember Hendricks, any comments?
No, very thoughtful site plan and design, in my opinion. And I can tell you for 20 years I lived here, public's been clamoring for parking structure. I like that it mirrors what Pace Center looks like, and I agree that or I should say, I believe it does follow the master plan of 2035, and I'm in approval.
All right, Councilmember Barrington.
Oh, thank you for the presentation. I'm excited to see this happen.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent design, and a couple things that I was encouraged by. I'm probably one of the history buffs up here. The berm, the railroad trestle, if you will, is important to this community. The preservation of that leftover trestle for whatever it is, it's a mound of dirt right now, but when I saw retaining wall on the drawings, I was very, very encouraged by that. So I appreciate that. I do have concerns with the dead end. I really do. I've been in those situations, and it's not fun. And I hope there's enough turnaround down there. Councilwoman Wilkes talked about it. If we're not driving dualies, we're driving GMC Denali's, and they're big and they're cumbersome, and a lot of people can't see. So I hope we have enough turnaround for a decent-sized vehicle down at the end. I do have concern for the amount of EV charging stations and the need. That is probably an issue that I would be better served as a CML representative at the State House. My car, when I fill my car up, I get about 400 miles in range, and I think EVs are close, but I don't get a gas pump in my parking garage. And it just it's frustrating in the sense that we have, spots that are mandated to be set aside. Again, the state has decided these things, and it's outside of our power. It is something that I think we'll see more and more of, but I also think that as Moore's Law states, batteries will get better and better, and we won't need all of these EV stations. So, hopefully that'll come sooner than later. But with today's mileage in EVs, I just don't understand why they get to park and charge wherever they go when I have to go to a gas station. But that's a personal comment. That has nothing to do with this council or this town. I do want to ensure, and I think we have talked about that it is not at a cost to the citizens of this community that we install these charging stations, that this is a net zero. And CORE will definitely help out with the initial infrastructure, and obviously they're going to sell electricity, so it's in their interest. And that electricity will be paid for by the users. I just worry about the number of dedicated spots for only EV drivers. And I understand the motivation, I fully get it. But as we're still in a community that's learning the values and the benefits of EV, I don't want to go there too fast. With everything together in one, as Councilmember Hendricks said, this definitely meets the master plan, definitely meets what we're looking after. I look greatly towards the cooperation. I think the architecture is great. I think it's complementary to the Pace Center. I do like the layout. I am concerned about the dead end, as I stated, but I trust the experts on that one. I'm just a business owner. I'm just a layman. So I do look forward to it. I like the Pace Center punch-out rail or iron screening coming to the north end. I think it'll be an asset to the community to be able to park in one location. So thank you. Well done.
Councilmember Dyak.
Yeah, no, I can say the same thing. I appreciate the architecture, how it's synergistic with Pace. The EV parking, I think, as Councilor Wynn indicated, we can revisit that. I would think as we build out the downtown, parking will be emerging and at a premium at some point. This is a parking structure, so we can transition from a surface lot into the structure plus a little bit more. So Yeah, I too have a concern, I guess, about the EV, but I think we can discuss that about requirements and mandates and all that good stuff at some point in the future. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the structure as presented. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate the presentation and the design and you taking into consideration making it blend with the building that's already existing there. So thank you all for that. You know, I follow a lot on social media and I read what people's concerns are with the parking garage and, you know, giving up all of our parking spaces is what's being told, that we're giving up parking spaces in this garage. And so I think it's important to point out that we have that, you know, we're not only replacing the spaces that are going away, but we're increasing that. So we're actually adding more parking. So just want to address that for the people that are watching that are concerned that this is going to take away spots. And thank you to Councilmember Rivero for touching on the landscaping. I mean, it is huge that we're making a big push for more water conservation type landscaping in our community and setting the example on town-owned property with that. So I appreciate that we're working to that. Yeah, I mean, like I agree. My only concern really is the size. I get that we choose to drive large vehicles, but we're also a family of 6, so you know we have to fit in our vehicles. So hopefully we can find a way to maybe get some parking spots somewhere else in downtown that can fit our giant vehicles. But other than that, just the turnaround, it is a concern, which we've all stated. So thank you again for the presentation.
Councilmember Hefta?
Yeah, I have to compliment my fellow town council members. That was a really good discussion. Some really great points made for the public as well. I think this is much needed for Parker. We're continuing to grow and expand at a steady rate, and we're developing downtown, and there's going to be lots more activities downtown. And so this parking garage is going to be a central hub to that activity downtown. So this is the first step in before more construction takes place downtown to get this parking garage in, and then move on. As Confluence Company, we'll move on to other projects once this parking garage is in. So thank you, staff, for the presentation and applicant.
Great, Council. With that, I'll entertain a motion on the Civic Center filing number 1 exemption plat lot 1 parking garage site plan.
A question on that. Do we have to say the whole 13 things attached to that?
No, you can just say based on the conditions included in the staff report.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
if you drive a dually, you have to.
Well, I don't. so
Anybody
I'm
else doesn't have to.
Okay, so I move to approve based on staff findings, the following conditions contained in the staff report.
Second.
Motion is made by Wilks, seconded by Hefta. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is ordinance number 1.623 on second reading. A bill for an ordinance to approve the right-of-way purchase and sale agreement by and between CPSJ Parker LLC and the town of Parker for a portion of Lot 2, McClatchin subdivision. Did I get that right? McClatchin?
McLaughlin?
I
think that's it.
McLaughlin subdivision, apologies, subdivision filing number 1 for the Lincoln Avenue widening project. Mr. Burke, 1 this time, huh? That's it.
Only 1 this time.
All right, a little disappointing, but
Respecting your time tonight.
I appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this ordinance before you tonight is a continuation of the effort that we've had the last couple council meetings, and we will have a few more coming up. So the vicinity map shown here is the parcel that's being presented tonight. This is the Murdoch's store along Parker Road and Lincoln Avenue. We are acquiring a permanent easement and a temporary construction easement along Lincoln Avenue. The permanent easement will be for sidewalk and curb ramp at the corner of Dransfeld and Lincoln. And then we have a larger temporary construction easement that's needed just for restoration as well as to address some drainage that's currently going to have to be reworked with the project coming from their parking lot area. So a little bit of background that we've been over a few times already. In 2023, Town Council approved an ordinance authorizing staff to proceed with the good faith negotiations needed for the right-of-way and easement acquisitions for this project. To date, we have received signed agreements from 17 of the 25 property owners. In 3 separate council meetings, we have approved ordinances for 11 right-of-way purchase and sale agreements. Tonight we'll make 12. 2 more are scheduled on the next meeting. The ordinance tonight addresses the acquisition for CPSJ Parker LLC, which is the Murdoch's retail store. Total cost for the ordinance tonight for the permanent and temporary easement is $59,550, and that funding has been appropriated in the 2024 Highway and Streets Capital Projects Fund. This ordinance is required to approve the right-of-way purchase and sale agreement, and the project cannot proceed without its approval. So overview of the area, we have, as mentioned, we have the permanent easement along the corner of Dransfeld and Lincoln. That is for sidewalk and curb ramp construction. And then we have the temporary easement. Permanent easement is 1,757 square feet, and we have 5,410 square feet of temporary construction easement. And with that, staff recommends Town Council approve ordinance 1.623 on second reading, and happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Councilmember Hefty, you want to kick us off on any questions?
Sure. You expect the other folks to be signing soon?
We do. We have a couple meetings set up in the next couple weeks with two of the owners. Two of the owners are Douglas County, which we're working through that with. We have Stonegate Village Metro District is another one, working through that one. And then we have a couple that have been somewhat non-responsive. We get responses occasionally, but we haven't had any big issues yet. So yes, we do expect to get them kind of within our timeline that we're still looking at.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No question.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions.
Councilmember Rivera?
Just one, how many appraisals were done, and is it just the one? On the cost of the property? Don't know.
I don't have in front of me if, I know the town did an appraisal or a consultant had an appraisal done. I don't recall. I believe the property owner on this one had an independent appraisal as well.
But
We had some where it was only town appraisal, or only the town got one, and then some where the property owner also got their own independent. I don't have in front of me which one this one was.
But the property owner agreed to the cost and could have been represented, his appraisal in that cost. Okay, thank you.
So with that, we'll open up for public comment at 7:56 p.m. Anyone wishing to make public comment on this project ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:57. And final comments in that same order, Councilmember Hefta?
Thank you for your presentation.
Councilmember Wilks?
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Councilmember Dyak?
No, I think it's going to be well served once we get this all the parcels and we get this project going.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
A lot of moving parts. Thank you for your hard work.
And Councilmember Rivera?
Yeah, a huge project, just beginning. Appreciate the hard work and much needed project. And I just want to point out again that if there is a need for the public to acquire easements, we have to pay just the same as anybody else. And the agreed upon price from the property owner in the town is what we pay. So thank you for that.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.623 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.623 on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Hefta, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Thank you, sir. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Ordinance number 1.627 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to approve the office space lease by and between Blair Family Properties 3 LLC and the town of Parker for 12900 Stroh Ranch Place, Parker, Colorado 80134. Mr. Lawson, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Michael Lawson. I'm one of the assistant town managers here. And we have what should be a brief item for you, requesting your approval of a lease, something of a rarity here in the town of Parker. So, as you all are aware, we have an addition and renovation project going on here at Town Hall that will start next month. And some of our staff, including the Finance Department and the Economic Development Department, will be displaced starting at the end of the month. And they will be displaced for about 14 to 15 months or so. We got about 18 folks who will need some temporary office space. And we've pretty much exhausted all the available space we have in this building, as well as Old Town Hall next door. So we are looking at a lease at 12900 Stroh Ranch, also known as the Sunmark Building. We worked with our fine folks in ED along with Trevi Commercial Real Estate to find some space. We very much appreciate Dave and Mitch helping us out on this. They were great to work with. And they found this Sunmark building down in Stroh Ranch. It comes at a reasonable price. It's an ideal office configuration, just the right size, and is easily accessible for both our staff as well as members of the public should they wish to come visit us. So what we have in front of you is a 15-month lease going from the end of this month through the end of October 2025. There is a small need for correction in the lease that you all have in your packet. We missed one number that should be 15 months instead of 18 months. That's an administrative technical change. Our attorney said we can handle it that way. So just wanted to disclose that. If there is a project delay of any kind, we can go month to month for 6 months if necessary. We also like the space because it is mostly furnished. We'd have to move just a few pieces over there as far as I understand, and then we would pay for utilities on our own. We did look at a number of different places through our CoStar database, 20 or so different places. We toured a couple of them, and this one fit very nicely. In terms of financials, we're looking at $24.50 per square foot. It's a pretty good price. And there you have the total cost for 2024. Crossing into a new year as a whole, do a bucket of money, so there's that cost as well. And we'll cover that money from different pots in 2024 out of contingency, and then planning on putting it in the 2025 budget. So with that, we ask if you are okay approving the lease.
Let's start with Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. Understanding that Finance and ED are going over there, both in-house departments, kind of. ED obviously has an outward face. Finance also when it comes to sales tax. Will there be an opportunity or a room to greet citizens in, or is it strictly just office?
There is some conference space where we could meet someone who wanted to come and visit with us. ED does have sufficient office space to meet with folks confidentially as well if they needed to. We do have a conference room in there for finance as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
So I'm sure you guys have thought through this or have had questions about, or somebody's asked the question maybe, would there be any opportunity for these employees to work remote versus in an office? And I just would like to hear why you think that's important, because
Sure, it's a good question. It's a question we actually answered quite a bit. For most folks in the organization, at least for these departments, a lot of them do already work on a hybrid schedule, and we would preserve those. We leave it up to the managers of each department to figure out what that schedule looks like, so there's sufficient coverage, and also to balance out maintaining that team cohesiveness of being a unit together, having everybody on the same page, of course. Same tension that a lot of organizations today deal with. So we do try and balance that. We don't have anyone working remote full-time every day, again, for that, in the interest of that cohesion there. So this allows us to continue that existing model.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Yeah, hi, you said you looked at around 20 properties, I think?
Well, he did.
Well, okay. What was the rent range like? I agree 24 square foot's probably very fair, but I was curious what the market has.
Sure. So what Weldy shared with me is that it seemed like the market average, it was all over the place for the properties that were kind of what we were looking for. It was, I think, $26.93, you said? Is the average. The bigger challenge for us was finding a spot that was big enough for 18 folks. There's a lot of kind of onesies and twosies around town. There's a lot of medical space, but nothing kind of in one big block. So having a space that is furnished, that's a couple of dollars south of that average, we think is a pretty good deal.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyack.
Yeah, just to follow up on Council Member Barrington's thought about work from home. I believe, and maybe you can articulate, Michael, that certain positions can and can't work from home. Correct?
That's true. Yes, suppose so.
So, no, I'm just trying to, kind of create some flavor here that it's just, we can't send everybody home and say work from home. That there are reasons and there are certain positions which can and can't or need to be here at certain points of the week in order to facilitate our work.
That is true, and kind of going back to Councilmember Rivero's point, is there are a handful of these positions, not many, but some that do have a public-facing purpose, and we do need to have coverage, even if people are not walking into the building, they are calling the building, and we want to make sure that falls proportionately, not disproportionately, among our staff. And again, one of the things I personally believe the town of Parker does very well is teamwork and valuing employees, and having that cohesion among our staff is part of what enables that. So we want to make sure that we preserve that.
So we couldn't just tell our people to go to a downtown coffee shop and set up shop, because we can save a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, there's 18
Right?
chairs there.
Yeah, there's at least 18 chairs at a coffee shop downtown. I'm sure
I am
we can-
willing to go try it out myself
Okay.
first to prepare it for our staff.
Yeah.
Assuming the coffee is complimentary.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, Michael.
So I'm going to pull you all out of this conversation before you get yourselves in trouble.
No,
So
yeah. One last comment. Being sort of a person who's officed in Parker, speaking to the challenge of getting space that is larger, it has always been a challenge. I mean, back in a previous life, we had about 28, 30 people. And that was significantly challenging to find space to house those people in Parker. We wanted to be in Parker, and it was very challenging because just based on our location, as Michael indicated, one or two spots for offices. Occasionally, you kind of get a bigger spot, but something that houses 18 people is a dinosaur in Parker. So to get that, kudos to our staff.
Councilmember Wilkes?
I'm glad to see we're all on the same page, because I wrote down the exact same questions about the remote and hybrid and working from home and all of that to save us money. So thank you for the explanation, because that answers my question. So appreciate it.
Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll open it for public comment at 8:06. If anyone from the public wants to make a comment on ordinance number 1.627. Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:07 and bring it back to council. Council, any final comments? On this side? Any on this side? All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.627.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.627 on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Rivero.
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is ordinance number 9.373 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance approving the agreement regarding funding of major drainage way planning for Sulphur Gulch, and Tallman Gulch watersheds by and between Urban Drainage and Flood Control District doing business as Mile High Flood District, Douglas County, Town of Parker, and Cherry Creek Basin Water Authority, agreement number 24-05.19, project number 110135. Mr. Grabchak, it's a big one.
That I'll only give you guys the really hard ones.
Okay, perfect.
It's always engineers.
Because Burke didn't have a hard one, so.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This ordinance is for an IGA between the town, Douglas County, the Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority, the Mile High Flood District, and the Mile High Flood District to fund a master drainageway plan, or MDP, for the Sulphur and Tallman Gulch watersheds. The extents of this master drainageway plan include Sulphur Gulch from Tomahawk Road to Cherry Creek, Sarah Gulch from North Saguaro Ridge Road to Sulphur Gulch, Tallman Gulch from Delbert Road to Sulphur Gulch, and Tallman Tributary from Canterbury Parkway to Tallman Gulch. Thank you. These watersheds encompass many Parker neighborhoods, including but not limited to Canterbury Crossing, Hidden River, Idlewild, Raleigh Downs, Saddlebrook, and Willow Park. The watersheds were last studied in 2001 in a 2001 outfall systems plan about 23 years ago. Since this study, developments such as Idlewild, the Hilltop Hess Road Extension, Legend High School, and many later sections of Canterbury Crossing have been completed. Larger properties expected to develop within the watershed include Kime Ranch, which is currently under construction, the Williamson property, and potentially the Colback property. This chart shows the major drainageways within the town of Parker and their corresponding 100-year developed peak flow rates as they travel through the town boundary. As highlighted, Sulphur Gulch is the town's fourth largest drainageway, conveying about 2,500 to 5,500 cubic feet per second of water within the town limits. Tallman Gulch comes in at the town's eighth largest drainageway by this metric, conveying about 1,500 to 2,500 CFS, while Sarah and Tallman tributary are considerably smaller. So the objectives of this MDP include updating the inventory of existing drainage and storm sewer systems within the watershed, updating the existing and future hydrologic analysis to current regulations and standards, conduct select hydraulic analysis to ascertain capacities of existing structures and channel stability through the corridor, identifying the location of any potential flooding problems, and developing drainageway improvement alternatives to address the current and future drainage needs. If approved, it is anticipated that this study will begin by October of this year. Historically, MDPs can take several years to complete due to the large study size and then also backlog and consultants. It is anticipated that this MDP will be completed by the end of 2026. Funding for this MDP will be split between the signing entities, with Parker contributing $90,000, or about 25% of the cost. This contribution is accounted for within the 2024 approved budget. Since the posting of this ordinance, as of Friday, actually, the Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority did request a minor revision to Part 203C, and that it be incorporated prior to signing. This revision would change the Basin Authority's contracting officer from the authority manager to any member of the authority or the Water Quality Authority's executive committee. Additionally, there are 2 administrative typos that were corrected. These requested changes were reviewed by town legal staff earlier today, and it was determined that these changes do not impact the agreement terms pertaining to the town. As such, staff recommends approval of ordinance 9.373 on second reading with the above revisions. Questions?
Councilmember Dak, you want to kick us off on questions?
Actually, real quick, I apologize.
Oh,
I have a question for the attorney.
Oh.
I apologize, but I sit as the chair of the Cherry Creek Water Basin Quality Authority, and thus I am a member of the executive committee. Is there a question there? And should I ask council, or should I?
Yeah, I think we should
Okay.
have council chime in on it.
Okay. So council, the Cherry Creek Water Basin Quality Authority, which is a contributing partner to this study and any improvements that would happen within these channels in the future, thus the need for this study. It is comprised of representatives from all the municipalities, the counties, and then 8 governor appointees, and I am the chair of said organization. Said organization has an executive committee made up of the executive board positions, and we make on-the-spot decisions on behalf of the committee, and thus identified in this now I would be purview to those decisions that would be based on my town. So I'm not sure if I can self-recuse or if I can ask council to conflict me, or if it's needed.
I think council can make a decision either way if they feel that there is a conflict.
So I will be honest, on our executive committee are 2 experts. One is the former director of SEMSWA, and the other is the former managing partner. So those are the experts that make these kinds of decisions. These decisions don't come to an elected official, they go to an expert. So I wouldn't be, it just gets a little sticky since it's addressed as the executive committee and not the partner, the manager of the Cherry Creek Basin. So if council, it depends on how you feel.
Michael, can you roll it back to the money slide? Mm-hmm. So I think, Josh, I think the question is, in your role on the Cherry Creek Water Authority, are you conflicting yourself? Are you recusing yourself there on this topic?
I talk about I talk about this topic on Thursday, and the Water Authority decides then to, whether or not we participate in this. My concern is that it previously was written that Jane Clary, the manager, would be the one that would make these decisions. And for some reason, Jane has deferred to Bill Rozzo and John McCarty to make these decisions, and I'm not quite sure why.
So
I don't think in your role though here, I don't think there's a conflict. I don't know if any of the other council members think that, but I don't think there's a conflict.
I mean,
You serve on two boards.
at 847 as a matter of practice, anything Town of Parker, I just recuse myself. It's not impactful. It's always unanimous. I just do it as a matter of practice to make it that the perceived conflict kind of goes away if I do that.
So are you saying, John, then that like if he recuses himself from his executive board meeting that's coming up Thursday, then there's no conflict here, or you think he should?
No, I mean, to me, I would if we were doing an E470 item, I would do it. But I mean, I think getting back to Dr. Cog,
I would offer an amendment excluding the chair currently, Joshua Rivero, Councilmember for Town of Parker. I don't know if that would be, and that could get to Tim Flynn by tomorrow, and Tim can decide how to present that to Cherry Creek, and the board then could decide if it's okay.
And I don't believe the final agreement has started routing yet, so we might have some time to follow up first thing in the morning and see if we can get that amendment included.
Okay. That would be my safest feeling, is if I was excluded from that executive committee for the purpose of this project.
Okay, so you're going to exclude yourself there and vote here?
Yes.
All right. Anybody have a problem with that? Great, let's move on. All right, so, did we ask questions yet? Dyak? Because you chimed in. Okay, thanks. I lost my track. Dyak, questions?
No.
Brandy?
No.
Councilmember Hefta?
No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
I guess just in 23 years, our community has obviously changed a lot. I mean, are there any, like, just the map didn't even have Idlewild on there. So
There have been, as the development has occurred, there's been engineering studies by the developers, on their impacts to the drainage ways. There are, older design infrastructure in place. So it would be good to see the effect that that older infrastructure is having on the system, and if any of that needs to be mitigated for. Only certain areas of Canterbury have detention, water quality ponds, things of that nature. So we'll be updating all the new infrastructure from Idlewild and the newer developments, but then also we'll be including all kind of the older infrastructure that was done with the original study, and then taking that and updating the criteria that was used to build that old information, essentially.
So I would assume concerns will be uncovered, or some things we're going to need to do
Yes,
some things.
it's anticipated we're going to find some concerns. I don't anticipate anything major coming up. We've really hit some pretty major storms in the last couple years, and if there was anything that, was major, like the Bradbury Ranch culvert, for instance, that would have popped up as complaints by now. There are some areas we are aware of that we've been monitoring that are closer to back of lots. Sulfur especially is very vegetated, so it's been pretty stable. Part of it, though, is you can't see some of what's moving. But where it is closer to the lots, we haven't noticed, large encroachments or anything like that. So we're not quite sure exactly what we'll find, but we aren't anticipating, major problems to be uncovered, I guess.
But so if there were, would the sponsors who are participating in this, would we all be responsible for repairs or?
Part of this will be both identifying and coming up with like a alternative solution, or just a basic kind of base level solution to those problems. From there, it'll be, just dependent on the jurisdiction, or if it's a property that will be developed, then we'll let a developer handle that when development comes in. Right now, a lot of this is dedicated open space and owned by HOAs. So if there was anything where there was, life property at risk, they would be kind of, I guess, on the hook liability-wise for that, and we would be here to help assist in whatever way the utility could.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
Yeah, thank you. Just real quick, can we talk just a little bit about impervious surface and the need for a study like this? We're a creek or a gulch or a tributary in the past, flew and, it was fine, everything was wonderful, but then when we start putting parcels that don't absorb water, what happens to the flows in those creeks and gulches?
Yes. So the flows increase as we build out. We have more pavement, less pervious soil to kind of absorb that water, so we have more water runoff. One of the kind of benefits of these studies is when we do these master plan communities, we're looking at assumptions for single-family impervious. We don't require every single lot to be calculated down to the square foot. We're taking an assumption per lot and then applying that to all the lots. And then we're taking the street corridor width and then calculating that. So we will be able to verify whether, this build out kind of aligned with what we assumed, or if it's more dense than what we assumed and calculated for, or if it's less dense. In conjunction with that, though, our NOAA Atlas rainfall data that's been updated significantly since 23, and it has helped actually, reduce some of the peak flows. We aren't getting. It may not seem like it, our average rainfall has decreased, but we are getting some more intense storms. So some of these design flow rates have reduced a little bit with new rainfall data.
No more questions.
We should have conflict. Did you?
No,
have
I meant,
that question?
no, and then just go to me for comment when you're ready.
All right, perfect. All right, with that, we'll go to public comment at 8:21. Anyone wishing to make public comment on 9373? Seeing none, we will close at 8:21 and bring it back to the council in that reverse order. Councilmember Rivera, you want to start?
Yeah, obviously, right up my, I don't want to say area of expertise because I'm not an expert, but this is kind of what we deal with every day at Cherry Creek. It's important with these aging gulches, incredibly important. Sulphur Gulch has serious erosion. We've lost a lot of dirt into the stream, and that's important because not so much just the erosion and the encroachment may be on the properties, but that dirt goes somewhere. And when that dirt goes somewhere, that sand goes somewhere, it creates huge costs downstream because it multiplies. And that's where we get into problems. And that's what we learned from Piney Creek and from Plum Creek and over at Chatfield. And so it's really important to identify these prior to a massive failure, because it would, if it did, or if there was a major 100-year event and a lot of earth went down, we could have much more bigger costs. So it's really, really important. And then we have aging infrastructure in Tallman. We have some of the only retention ponds left in the community in Tallman that are retaining water. That's that beautiful shade of green that you see that is just loaded with nutrients and waiting to pollute Cherry Creek. So in order to do improvements, both the Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority and the Mile High Flood District look to plans like this to invest those dollars as a partner. So the plan is the first step, seeing what we need, when we need it, when we'll need to look into it, when we can budget for us, because all of us run on 10-year CIPs. So this step is an incredible step to get the improvements that we're inevitably going to need. I remember when Jacob was still here, he started talking about some of the needs that were starting to show themselves at Sulphur Gulch, and that was some years ago. So the time is coming. The Grim Reaper's starting to look at us. So we need to get ahead of it and get this study done so we can get some dollars from other sources.
Councilmember Barrington?
No comments, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No comments.
Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, no, I mean, just like transportation, leveraging money, finding external partners, I think is key for us right now and hopefully going forward. If we can bring dollars in to reduce our cost, we can create or we can do more projects here in town. So thank you to all the partners that we have on this project.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No comments, thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
Yeah, I would echo Councilmember Dyak's comments about having great relationships and working together And that's something we all have to do as elected officials and town employees. We work with other counties, we work with other districts, and those relationships are how we get things done effectively. So thank you for those good relationships. And also, I'm impressed with Councilmember Rivero's attention to detail on a possible ethical matter on that, and in an abundance of caution, I would agree that's the right move.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 9.373 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.373 on second reading, including the minor revisions outlined in the presentation, as well as the work done to resolve Councilmember Rivero's conflict.
Second.
Motion is made by Dyak, seconded by Wilks. Rivero.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Wilks.
Aye.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0.
Thank you all.
Next up, we get a twofer with Mr. Gill here, so I'll read these in. We have ordinance number 1.624 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the town of Parker and Jean Mio as trustee of the Chiang Miao Family Trust B concerning the Parker Road Sidewalk Trail Improvement south of Parker Square Drive, and ordinance number 1.625 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the town of Parker and PHTS Commercial Owners Association Incorporated concerning the Parker Road Sidewalk Trail Improvement south of Parker Square Drive. Mr. Gill, you had last week off, so you got to come back and do two with us.
Right, I still owe Chris dinner. He hasn't told me where. I might say Jack in the Box, maybe, I don't know.
Bet on La Loma with them, you can push it out a little bit.
So anyway, good evening, Mayor and Council. The two ordinances before you tonight are a continuation of the Parker Road Sidewalk Trail Project acquisitions. And as you mentioned, Chris Hudson helped me out last Monday night by presenting the first three ordinances. So after tonight, only two more will remain for a total of 7. So I've got a vicinity map up there, and the project limits are from Sulphur Gulch down to just south of Parker Square Drive. So a little background on the project. In July of 2023, Town Council approved an ordinance authorizing staff to proceed with good faith negotiations for easements necessary to construct the project. These two ordinances being presented tonight are for the Jean Miao property, parcel 9, and the PHTS Commercial Owners Association property, parcel 12. The total cost for these easement acquisitions is $43,530. The ordinance are required to approve the memorandums of agreements, also known as the MOAs. So I got the Jean Miao property up there. That's, as I mentioned, that's no, I didn't mention, I was kidding Chris. That's the Jack in the Box property. We need 690 square feet of permanent easement at that location. And the second property map, which belongs to PHTS Commercial Owners, includes a detention pond just south of the Sulphur Gulch. And there we need 835 square feet of permanent sidewalk easement and 2,449 square feet of temporary easements at that location. And that wraps it up. In conclusion, sorry, staff recommends Town Council approve ordinances 162 and 1625 on second reading. And any questions?
Great, thanks, sir. Councilmember Hendricks, you want to start off with questions?
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Rivero?
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Wilks?
So when it says the funds have already been appropriated by the highway, I can't remember all those things. Can you just tell me a little bit then what that really means when you say the funds have already been appropriated?
Well, when we do the budget, Chris accounts for it, basically.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Hefta?
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, with that, we'll open this up for public comment at 8:28. Anyone from the public wishing to make comment on ordinance number 1.624 or 1.625? Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:28 and go back in that reverse order. Councilmember Hefton, any final comments?
No, I'm in support of this.
Excuse me?
I said I'm in support of this.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No, I appreciate the work that you guys did, and I appreciate that you already saw ahead and appropriated the funds for this.
Councilmember Dyak?
Anytime you got Tom Gill and Jack in the Box in a presentation, it's a winner.
They promised you more fast food this time, so you're good. Councilmember Hendricks?
No comments.
Councilmember Barrington?
No comments, thank you.
And Councilmember Rivera?
Well done, keep it up.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.624 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.624 on second reading, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.625 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.625 on second reading, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivera and seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak? Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Next up is contracts over $500,000. Parker Road, Park Glen Signal, CIP 23-023. Mr. Hudson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about the contract award for the Parker Road Parkland traffic signal. This is an intersection that a traffic signal been contemplated there for at least 2 decades. I've even heard further back than that. A couple years ago, in 2022, we did a MUTCD, Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Device Warrant Analysis, and it did meet warrants. And so we started the design effort and CDOT review. Design was completed earlier this year after CDOT approval, and we applied for and got a CDOT access permit due to the change of the access type. The work is a little bit bigger than the traffic signal. It also includes work on 3 of the corners to make it ADA compliant. The 4th corner is actually being taken care of with the project this year. That's underway right now. And there's some drainage improvements on the northeast corner that needs to be made as well. We publicly advertised this back at the end of May. We opened bids in end of June. We got bids from 6 responsive bidders. There's the values there. Lowest responsible bid was from a group called Lighthouse Transportation Group. Lighthouse Transportation Group is a fairly new firm, but they've completed several of our capital improvement projects for us as a subcontractor. Currently, they're doing the North Parker Road operational improvements as a sub. They're also doing the Dransfield widening project as a sub. And they also happen to be our on-call emergency contractor. We went through a selection process last year, and they were selected. To compress this construction schedule as much as possible, the town is purchasing and furnishing the signal poles for the project at a cost of just over $87,000. That is not included in this construction contract. So tonight, I'm hoping that you recommend award of this contract. Notice to proceed will be about a month out. Anticipated construction schedule, we anticipate to wrap it up this winter get the construction and have that signal operational. And with that, staff recommends approval of the construction contract with Lighthouse Transportation Group for a total amount of $752,388. Funds are available to cover the construction cost in the Traffic Control Fund or Capital Improvement Fund for traffic signals. And this is just an excerpt of some of the plan for this signal. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Councilman Rivera, you want to kick us off?
Thank you. This is obviously much needed. It's 2 decades at least. And I know, obviously, a challenge of working with CDOT, and I'm glad they approved it finally, I will say. Is there a chance, or has it been anticipated, that signalizing this intersection will increase traffic in front of the police station at Parkland and Dransfield? And if so, does it warrant a traffic study there after this is built?
So we've actually completed the warrant analysis for the Dransfield Parkland signal. We're finalizing design of that.
Already answered.
Yeah, so it meets warrants, that location does, and we plan to have it out for bid in the next month, Josh.
Okay.
Well
done. Thank you.
It'll be bid out, I'll be back here some point this fall probably to talk to you about that one.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Barrington, any questions?
Somebody asked me this question recently. So when we call it a traffic light, it's a lot of times multiple intersections or
I think the term traffic light, traffic signal is just a regional term. I've heard people say it's a traffic light. Well, to me, a light means a light at the intersection, as in lighting the pedestrians are walking by, but it's a signal. It's signaling who gets the right of way. That's all a traffic signal does, is it just tells people who has the right to go and what not to go.
My question, sorry, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
So it's on multiple, I mean, it controls traffic in 4 directions or in
Correct.
2 directions?
Correct. The traffic signal will controls right of way, controls access. In this situation, on 4 legs is how it works.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No questions, thank you.
And Councilmember Hefta?
Is that near the hospital where this is going in on Parkland Way?
The Parkland Way is the intersection just south of Lincoln Avenue. It's about 1,000, 1,200 feet south of the Lincoln Avenue intersection. So on the west side, I think it's FedEx today. It used to be Kinko's. And on the east, I knew it as Armadillo, but Armadillo's been gone for 20 years.
My wife loved that place.
It's going to be the new Hispanic market.
Yeah,
and
the
then
new
the
okay.
car wash coffee shop.
My daughter went to piano class there, so a long time ago.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open this up for public comment at 8:35. Anyone wishing to make comment on CIP 23023? Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:36. And any final comments in that same order, Councilmember Rivera?
Yeah, I just, it's much needed. It's been ongoing and a battle, I think, with the state, and I appreciate your effort in keeping it hot and keeping it on the front burner, and when they're ready to approve, we're ready to go, and I thank you foresight in the budget for that. I also think it's important that, to note that Parker lights, if you will, every lane. We don't get that pleasure where we drive, and so it's nice that we have a signal for each lane of traffic for the most part, I think, in our community. And I learned a lot driving around Douglas and Elbert County with my kid when he was going for his license. And not only every lane lit, but they're striped on how to turn and where to go, and Parker's a very easy place to teach kids to drive, so well done.
Councilmember Barrington?
I know it's a comment. I just had one more question.
Okay, go for it.
Was this the same intersection where the really terrible accident was? Just this?
There was an accident here in the last year. There was. There's also been accidents in the past as well. There's been about 20 years ago, there was another really bad accident here. That one was not caused by the intersection, but it happened basically at the intersection, the one 20 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No comment.
Councilmember Dyak?
I miss the days when traffic signals were $250,000. That's all I got.
Councilmember Wilkes?
Yeah, I mean, I understand how much of a pain it is when you're driving down Parker Road and you keep hitting traffic lights. I understand when people complain about that. But when you've coming from the other sides and you have to sit there and wait for 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes to be able to get your car out, and it does create more traffic because you get people that pull out, and now these cars have to slow down. I'm excited to actually have some sort of traffic signal there to help direct that. I'm surprised on how many people in our state don't know and understand right of way. So I'm excited that there's now a signal to tell them right away. So good job. Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
I'm always in favor of traffic signals. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve CIP 23-023.
I move to approve the staff recommendation as part of the regular agenda.
Second.
I think I heard Josh. Motion is made by Wilks, seconded by Rivera. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Last up is Pace Parking Garage Construction Management Services, CIP 23-040. Mr. Klaus is back.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we've got the construction management inspection and material testing contract for tonight in front of you. This is typically under consent agenda, but since we had the site plan approval tonight and we're on a tight schedule, I want to make sure I get this contract in front of you guys tonight. So we've got a brief presentation on this. So just a little background on that. The Town and Parker Authority for Reinvestment, or PAR, executed a development agreement and financing agreement with CD Parker LLC, or Confluence, on November 7th, 2022. The agreement outlined a requirement for Confluence to design and construct a town-funded parking structure in place of existing surface lot east of the Pace Center. The parking structure will be 4 stories tall and constructed with precast concrete. It will contain 296 parking stalls, 9 of which will be EV stations, intended to be EV ready. There will be a trail connection to Sulphur Gulch on the east side of the building as well. Here's the vicinity map. We went over this earlier tonight. Engineering and Public Works Department utilizes consultants for construction management, inspection, and material testing services on capital improvement projects. The town publicly advertised an on-call RFQ in 2021 with 4 selected firms. An informal solicitation was made on May 3rd of 2024 this year among those on-call firms. I received 2 responses from consultants, and it was deemed that Alfred Benish and Company is the most qualified to complete the construction management and testing scope for this project. A scope of work was negotiated based on construction documents provided by the architect in June of this year. Benish will be utilizing a sub-consultant for material testing services with construction management and inspection services being handled by Benish staff. The cost for these services will be $282,385. The town's worked with Benish on capital improvement projects in 2023 and in 2024 with good results. I haven't worked with this project lead team in recent projects, but their experience with similar projects in the past, we're anticipating a cohesive team, and staff recommends award of this contract. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. We'll start off with questions with Councilmember Hefta.
No questions.
Councilmember Wilks?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
None, thanks.
Councilmember Rivera?
Is this John Forney and his team?
Yes.
With that, we'll open it for public comment at 8:41. Anyone wishing to make public comment on CIP 23-040? Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:41 and bring it back in that same order. Councilmember Hefta, any final comments?
Thank you for your presentation.
Councilmember Wilks?
Thanks, appreciate it.
Councilmember Dyak?
No comments.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No comments.
Councilmember Barrington?
No comments, thanks.
And Councilmember Rivera?
No comments.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on the Pace Parking Garage Construction Management Services, CIP 23-040.
I move to approve the staff recommendation as a part of the regular agenda.
Second.
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Wilks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. With no other business for the Parker Town Council, we'll adjourn at 8:42.